Oh man, I love mornings with Jordan, making him as uncomfortable as possible. Tuesday, November 28th. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We're brought to you by Underdog. 8 game slate ahead of us in season tournament edition. Not too many more of these left. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. What's up, Adam?
Not much. Yesterday wasn't great for me. How did it go for you?
Towed the line between awesome and awful, I guess. Finished fourth alongside fellow stochastic player Doug Holtz. I think you guys might have heard of him before. Chopped with like a couple other people too, but only played 50 lineups coming out of our conversation yesterday. Told you before I did it, trying to bring the good luck of playing 50 lineups. Lineup number 91 would have shipped the fadeaway last night for $100,000. So that is outstanding.
Yeah, so the key part of my strategy is to actually be good at figuring out what your best 50 lineups are.
Based on the ROI data that I read on both Stochastic and a second source, it seems like I was pretty good at it in comparison to Ship My Money DFS.
Well, that's because I was late swapping and you were probably sleeping, but
Slept right to the money ish. I'm not in a bad mood, but I'm not as happy today as I would have liked to
oh
be.
yeah. No, I know the feeling. It sucks.
I just shouldn't have looked. I should have
Yeah, you
known
shouldn't have.
better. I shouldn't have looked. It was all still up. Like everything that I needed was just in front of me. I didn't have to
That
do like it took 2 seconds worth of work to check it. That was the problem. If I had to do, if it was like back in the day where like I would have had to manually check that a little bit, I would have never done it. But it
so
was
the
one button
lesson here
click.
is just play night slates also.
What would that have gotten me?
Not all your main slate shit right in front of you.
Yeah, I guess. I guess. It's just sad. Sad. Yet here we are. 8 game slate. Yeah. Uh, Omar in chat said the fadeaway was mine. It didn't have to be. It didn't have to be. Let's see. What was the lineup that I had that would have shipped it? Let's see. Cunningham, Ivy, Fontecchio, Kuzma, Duran, Reggie Jackson, Kawhi Leonard, DeAndre Jordan. 385.5, which I believe would have won by a half point.
I hated that slate because I had 50% Embiid and that made me like dead.
Give me a major. Oh, because it's like Zubats. I mean,
And
Embiid was
Jordan,
still, well, yeah, but the Jordan piece was fine. Embiid didn't make you dead.
uh, you couldn't win with Embiid, could you?
Sure. Why could you have not won with Embiid?
Because all the wing values sucked and cheap centers went for 40 plus.
There had to be a path with Embiid. I don't know. I don't even know what's in the winning line. Like Omar's about to be like, yeah, I had Embiid.
Yeah, I'll say it's possible. I like for most of the night out. No, he had Zubats and Jordan
Okay.
because you needed Kuzma. You Grant helped a lot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then pay down at center. Like, all right, where's him? Where's the first? Oh, Aiton was really good too. The best
Yeah.
Embiid lineup came in fourth, 9 points behind Omar,
Hmm.
and like
Yeah. I wonder
it's
who
like as
had
good
that
of a
lineup.
lineup.
It's me.
What'd you say?
The lineup that came in fourth is me.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't. I clicked on Randy C, but yeah, same lineup as you.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like
okay.
you needed.
I mean, to be fair, like you're not mad you had Embiid. That's still great for you in general, but you are
Yeah, no,
boxed
I'm
out
just mad that
most of the way.
like he ended up not being a winning piece with like 70 DraftKings points.
Yeah. That is weird to think about how like that might box you out. Like surely there's an optimal lineup with Embiid that could probably get there with somebody like with a construction you don't get to. But it's really weird to think about that where it's just like, oh, that I wish that I had less Embiid and the same time that like he's probably good for your min caches.
Right. It's the inverse of what we talk about with center value, where it's like, your cheap center goes for 24, but then Embiid goes for 70 and Aiton goes for 50, and you don't have enough raw points, you're dead. It's the inverse where Embiid goes for the most raw points, but the center value is amazing, and the value at other positions that you use to get Embiid is terrible, and so you can't win with Embiid.
Yeah. Obviously had a bunch of Embiid as well. I had so much Kawhi Leonard and Jeremy Grant before lock, and who knew that that was going to be a really good thing to have.
Yeah. Kuzma came through big. That was nice.
He did. I did not. That was the one I didn't. That was the piece I didn't have. Um, that was like blocking me out from really exploding because I had everything else.
2x on him.
Brogdon just shitting the bed late also didn't help because he was like my second most exposed guy.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of him, but I'd sent you that one lineup. I had a lineup going into like the third quarter of the 7 o'clock games that was just like, I think it was in like third and just like had more minutes than anybody remotely close. And then like three different guys just did not score in the fourth.
Well,
I think I was overweight on, I might have been overweight on like every player in the winning lineup. I don't think I was, well, he was 2%, so I don't know. I think I was like even on Grant. Yeah, I don't know. I was over on Kuzma. I was over on like a lot of the good plays, just didn't get them together.
Yeah. Well, we got an NFL show behind us, 52 minutes to go. You want to put the pedal to the metal here?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what the best like Embiid optimal was, but I haven't found it yet.
I'll get there while we're going. Chicago Bulls, 13.5-point dogs in Boston. I don't know what this line would be if the Celtics were playing this is without Kristaps Porzingis, I might add. And the Chicago Bulls have a Q tag on Levine and Caruso. There's also a Q tag on Holiday. Would the Boston Celtics be 20-point favorites against San Antonio today? Because if the Bulls are 13.5, we're getting dangerously close to like 3 touchdowns for the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, they are really good.
Yeah. Like if you put Porzingis on this floor and you have them play the Blazers or the Spurs, I think we're at like 18 or 19, which is nuts.
What about the Wizards and the Pistons?
They're like a half step ahead of those guys.
Yeah, okay.
12% ownership coming into Drummond, 11 to Vooch, 8 to Levine. Now we need to know the status of Levine and Caruso. That will really change up the game a little bit for value here. But I mean, 2 touchdown underdogs with the game with the lowest implied total on the slate. It's really hard to get to Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, you have double-digit ownership coming into Vooch at 7,200 at 11% on DraftKings. The highest owned guy here is Drummond at 3,300, getting 12% ownership. I mean, I get it. I assume that you don't really need that by the time lock rolls around. You do have the center issue where, like, yeah, he's a decent point per dollar play, but raw points are going to matter. The opportunity cost is really high. Like, you're just getting the backup minutes to Vooch, so it's not like you can really project more than, 12, 13, somewhere in there. So nothing that really stands out. I mean, Levine still has shooting guard, small forward at 7,400. That's nice, but tough spot. Enough other games where I don't think you're going to get too much of this one.
393.75. Shamet, Ivy, Fontecchio, Grant, Embiid, Jackson, Kuzma, Jordan. There's not many that win this contest with Embiid, but you end up having to get to like Landry Shamet, Marcus Morris. That one's actually pretty real. Ivy, Holiday, Fontecchio, Grant, Embiid, Jackson, Kuzma, Jordan.
Embiid was not in any. Nope, I'm looking at the wrong slate. Embiid was not in the optimal lineup. He was in the second best possible. Second best possible lineup.
Is that the Shamet one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The optimal was Maxey, Ivy, Fontecchio, Grant, Jordan, Jackson, Kuzma, Zubac.
There we go.
Of the 25 top possible lineups, Embiid was only in 36%.
There we go. Yeah, what happens here if we lose Levine and Caruso?
This turns into one of those spots where you end up playing a bunch of Bulls and they lose like 140 to 12.
Yeah. This is one of those blowouts that happens in the reverse direction where Boston doesn't have to be good offensively and the Bulls could have 76 points.
Yeah. Now, we also thought that was very likely to happen last night and the Nuggets won. So, there is that.
Also true.
But,
yep.
I mean,
all the people that are just always like blowout, don't play them. Hope you watched last night.
Right. Like that one was even, it didn't change my approach to the game, but, talking like on the show, it's just like, I don't know how they possibly stay close. We did pretty much get it. Like Michael Porter Jr. couldn't make a shot to save his life. KCP couldn't make a shot to save his life. Jackson and Jokic and Jordan just went absolutely nuts.
Yeah. It's craziness.
But
I have 11% Vooch.
What'd you say?
I have 11% Vooch. That's the only thing I'm really getting here.
Yeah. I'm still working on running my stuff now, but the price tag on Vooch is nice. If Levine and Caruso end up out, like it's going to make everybody look at least somewhat better. More usage for Vooch, DeRozan, Kobe White, we know it doesn't change too much for him, but in theory, at least, like there's an easier path to him scoring. But then you're also just getting more minutes for Dosunmu, Javon Carter, Patrick Williams, Torrey Craig, some combination of those guys.
The Boston side has no Kristaps Porzingis, but we are also waiting on the status of Drew Holiday, who we didn't see the last time out. 7% ownership to Jaylen Brown is the high mark, 6 to Jason Tatum. I don't have a single share of anybody here from Boston. If Drew ends up out, you start to like work your way into wanting to get to a little bit more Brown and Tatum. Like, I like Brown's price. I don't mind having him, but like this entire game environment is brutal.
Yeah. If, assuming that Holiday is in and you're not opening up value from him, nothing looks that good here. Like Jaylen Brown at 8,200, shooting guard, small forward. Sure, if you get there, obviously a 10-3 Tatum is always fine, but nothing that stands out as a particularly good play. Nobody here is getting double-digit ownership. Only Jaylen Brown has a 10% chance of being optimal on DraftKings. Just a very low probability team.
Yeah. Not a single share right now. Wouldn't mind any Brown or Tatum, obviously. Holiday being out will open some things up, but like Pritchard and Hauser are already priced up. Banton got the start last time out, but basically didn't play enough to matter. He'll be 3,500. He'll be a value guy. It won't matter. There's not going to be a lot here because it's the lowest total on the slate, and it's a really ugly game.
Yep. And also, I mean, again, like I don't know that there's a ton you can do to account for this, but it's also the first game of the night. So it's not a game where ideally, and like if you're somebody, this is something where like you're just gonna have more control over it if you're a single entry guy, 3 max guy, whatever. But as a tiebreaker too, like you shouldn't really be wanting this game.
Right.
Like all things equal, you should just be preferring guys from later games.
Yep. Toronto Raptors, 1.5 point underdogs in Brooklyn, 223 total. This one's a little tricky. The Toronto side is normal, but Brooklyn has a Q tag on Claxton, a Q tag on Dennis Smith Jr., Cam Johnson's probable, Ben Simmons still out, Cam Thomas doubtful. So keep an eye on that. You never know if he's going to get like late upgraded to questionable throughout the day. Nobody in double digits of ownership on the DK side. Schroeder and Siakam are north of 10% on the FanDuel end. I got 9% of Anunoby, but this is another spot, 223 total. This isn't really a game I'm getting a ton of. You can get to like any one of those Raptors starters, but they all look very similar.
Yeah, that's how it's been for a while, just because they're healthy and pretty much correctly priced. Siakam, Schroeder, Pirtle, Barnes, Anunoby, any of them are fine. They're all pulling like 4 to 10% ownership. We have Schroeder right now as the best play on DraftKings from Toronto. 14% chance of being optimal at 9.5% owned at 6,300. Certainly don't mind that, but still $6,300 Schroeder, point guard only. We know that's a position that you can fill a million different ways. It's tough for him to stand out. Played 29 minutes last game, but he did deal with some foul trouble. Had an abbreviated stint in the third quarter. We've seen Siakam pick it up a little bit. We've seen Barnes come back to earth a little bit. They're similarly priced. They both have very high ceilings, but pretty much priced where they should be for their projection.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind any Siakam, Anunoby, Jake Puddle, Schroeder, but it's another spot where I just don't expect to have a lot. Nobody stands out. Now, to be fair, as we work our way through this slate, we're going to talk about most teams just not looking all that interesting. We are pretty, like, we don't really have any value right now. This slate looks pretty difficult on paper.
Yeah, I figured that when Andre Drummond was getting 12% ownership.
Yeah. Brooklyn side, 9% ownership coming into Spencer Dinwiddie, 5 to Claxton, 3 to Bridges. You get Bridges and Dinwiddie to 12 on FanDuel. I got 6 of Nick Claxton. We don't even know if he's going to play. He is questionable. I kind of feel the same way that I felt about Chicago and Boston and Toronto. Like, there is just nothing here that looks good.
Yeah, Cameron Johnson pulling the most ownership at 15%, 11% chance of being optimal, but he's been fine. Solid enough point per minute guy. He did leave the last game early, so only played 22 minutes, but that's the only guy here with that's the only guy here getting double digit ownership. We have Dinwiddie going a bit under owned, 11% chance of being optimal, 9% ownership. But 7,200 for him, even with shooting guard eligibility, isn't that appealing. I'd love the idea of getting the Mikal Bridges if you can, just because of the upside that's there, but 5% chance of being optimal, 2% owned. There's nothing that looks very good from this team either. I think Johnson right now looks the best.
I've said this a couple times recently. I'm going to say it again tonight. 5 games tip off at 7:30, an 8 o'clock start, an 8:30, and then a 10. Drop the 10 from the slate. Go 7 games. Run a showdown. Everybody gets an hour and a half of their life back by doing that. And it will not change the slate in any way. Please stop keeping these island West Coast games in the main slate. If there's more than one, I get it. Drop this one.
It would actually change the slate because you would lose the Kings and the Warriors.
But it doesn't change. It's a uniform change to everybody.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could take off 6 other games too, and it wouldn't change the slate by your definition.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate you so much. I wish you never won anything. I hope all of your sneakers get lost in transit and they make you pay for it. I hope you didn't get insurance or whatever else.
As long as they get my hoodie.
Oh, I hope you burn it again. Anything else for Brooklyn?
No.
Okay. Well, hit the like button to the 400 of you here that are here. Let's run that number up over 100. Schedule for the rest of the day. NFL strategy show coming up next at 11 a.m. You get the NHL strategy show at 2 p.m. Adam and I will be back for the deeper dive at 5:30, and then NBA Live Before Lock from 6:30 to 7:30. So we've got 4 more live shows coming up today, along with countless VODs across this channel and the Odd Shopper channel. We also still have the Cyber Monday promo for today and today only. This does not continue tomorrow. Use the promo code CYBER, get our lineup generator for $4.95. I assume you want the NBA version, but the NFL version exists as well. Less than $5. Think of it like Sims Ultra Light. We generate thousands and thousands of lineups on the back end. We get rid of all of the ones that don't grade out well. We present the rest to you. They pop up on the screen. Click save if you like it. Click discard if you don't. You can choose chalky builds, balanced builds, contrarian builds, lock a player in, swap players around. I personally think that this is the best deal that we offer. I want people to get the Sims tool, but I understand that $200 price point is a big number for a lot of people in a given month. So I don't expect to hit everybody with that one, even though I think people should use it. For this one, there's no reason that everybody can't get in on $4.95 to get a much better product that's going to set you up with a lineup that is going to just have you in a better position than if you hand built it. I'm quite confident in that. You're going to be you're in a more advantageous situation by using the lineup generator, and you get to test it out for a week for $4.95. So come on in. The water's nice.
And it's also customizable. Like, that's, I think, one of the really nice things is, like, you're getting the foundation of a quality lineup. Like, you still have the ability to very easily, swap in a piece that you prefer or swap out somebody you don't like, whatever it may be. Like, It's not just like, oh yeah, click the button and here you go, unless you want it to be.
Yeah, you could lock a player in if you want, that when that lineup pops up, if you want to swap somebody out for another player, you can move people around. You're going to get our projection information, ownership, optimal rates, all that good stuff, all in the lineup generator. The Atlanta Hawks are 5-point dogs in Cleveland, 237 total. Second highest total on the slate. Great spot for Cleveland. Bad Atlanta defense. Pace up spot as well. We're getting Bogdanovich at 18% ownership for Atlanta. We're getting Clint Capella at 15. Okongwu at 7. Interesting dynamic there. Don't really know what's causing it. Only 3% to Trae Young, but 9,700 is a pretty healthy price tag. I've got a little bit of Capella and a little bit of Trae Young. I'm finding it hard to get to Atlanta, but that's not really much of a surprise. Good defense on the opposite side and not as good of a pace matchup for Atlanta. So this is a worse spot.
Yeah, I mean, still a 237 total, give or take, but
yeah,
it's probably the most appealing team we've talked about so far, but it's still nowhere near as appealing as Atlanta normally is. You mentioned Trae Young being up to 9,700. So, he's getting half the ownership he deserves, but he still only has a 6% chance of being optimal. Same goes for DeJounte Murray at 8,400. Clint Capella, Bogdanovich, the two guys that look the best right now. They do offer some value. They obviously have pretty nice ceilings. 5,700 for both of them. Shooting guard, small forward for Bogdanovich. He's getting 18% ownership, 11% chance of being optimal. So looks fine, probably a little bit overowned, but one of the better values we've seen so far, which isn't saying much. Clint Capella, same thing at 5,700. a little bit over-owned, 14% ownership. You can always, move that around to some other centers. We just saw Claxton getting like 1/3 of the ownership for 600 more. That's a spot you could reasonably pivot if you wanted to, but
just pivot to a Okongwu if you want.
Right, yeah, that too. Pretty fair price tags on those guys. It is interesting to me that Okongwu is not getting ownership here. 4,800, so the price tag still hasn't really moved. He's been relatively popular at that price tag like every slate, and then now it's just like, oh, there's no value, and we're also not playing Okongwu.
If there's ever a matchup where you're going to see them play 49 or 50 minutes at center, this is the one that would be. Not that you were ever projecting it like that, but no, not at all. But like if it's ever going to happen, the Mobley Allen front court can be matched up with Capella and Okongwu pretty easily. If they want to do like just because they're down Jalen Johnson, I think that like possibility allows itself. I don't think they want to go that direction, and I don't think they have to, but if it was ever going to be here, it would be this one.
Man,
I don't like 18% to Bogdanovich at 5,700. How do you feel? Like, how do we feel there?
I mean, I think with Jalen Johnson out, you're just going to get more minutes for Bogdanovich, which is nice.
Yeah, I went 28. Maybe that's just me being low.
No, I mean, I think that's like I think it was around 26 for Bogdanovich was what I generally was at before. So I think 28 makes sense. You're getting a couple extra minutes, but like you're also getting a high usage guy out of the lineup and replaced by nobody. Like Sadiq Bey is not a high usage guy. AJ Griffin's not a high usage guy. So any minutes that Bogdanovich was going to be sharing the floor with Jalen Johnson, it's going to look a little bit better. You're still getting him running the second unit as well, which is really valuable. Yeah. Or playing with Trae Young on the second unit, but like playing with the second unit.
Anything else here for Atlanta?
No.
Well, here we go. 27% ownership coming into $7,200 Darius Garland, 5 to Donovan Mitchell, 15 to Evan Mobley, and 16 to your boy, Jared Allen. I have slightly more than the 27% coming into Darius Garland, but I'll leave it to you. Which Cav do you like the most, and why is it Jared Allen?
Yeah, I mean, it's Jared Allen because he made me a shit ton of money the other day, but I still like this price tag. Like when I played a lot of him the other day, I saw how much I was getting, and I was just like, why do I have 75% Jared Allen? Like that's incredibly aggressive. But it was also just a situation where like when you step back and ignore that he hasn't been great so far this season and that, playing time's been kind of not where you would like it to be. It was Jared Allen at like 6,100 and 10% owned or something. And it was like, oh, well, that's a really good play. And it's still kind of the same thing here. Like he's only 6,400. It's still Jared Allen. The upside that he comes with 15% chance of, or 15% ownership, 14% chance of being optimal. So he looks good. I still think Garland's probably the best play here just because he's not a center. He is only 7,200. He's getting 26% ownership, 14% chance of being optimal. So I think it's between Allen and Garland for me. I'll have an answer in a second.
It's definitely Garland for me, as I have 72% of him.
Oh boy, why are these people?
Sorry, 73% of Darius Garland is what I have right now. But I don't have any problem with that. Like this is a fantastic matchup for Cleveland. Bad Atlanta defense, and they play fast. This is a great spot for the Cavs. And that makes Darius Garland go from like a 1.05 guy to like a 1.15 guy just from this matchup.
I basically flipped Garland and Allen. I have like 23% Allen and 14% Garland.
Okay. I also have 21% Donovan Mitchell at 6% ownership. Another thing that I am not in any way mad about.
So I was just checking all the other teams we've talked about. Nothing really surprising from them. I do have 22% Schroeder. That kind of surprised me.
Okay.
But again, we do have him projected to be pretty under-owned, so that's not too surprising, I guess. 7% Mobley, 7% Mitchell for me. Happy with both of those. Basically half the field on Mobley. Wouldn't be mad getting more. It is a good spot, like you said. Mitchell a little bit over the field. I do like that at 9,200. Point guard, shooting guard. We know the ceiling that he gives you. So I'm not really I'm not getting near as much Cleveland as you are. I kind of wish that I was, but at the same time, like you're just getting a lot of ownership. Relative to other spots. I do like that I essentially just kind of flipped Allen and Garland ownership. Not that I would be upset if I were just getting like more of both of them, but I did kind of like that because like we have them both with a 14% chance of being optimal. So I'm pretty happy that it worked out, that I'm just playing them the opposite way that the field is.
Right. Okay. I don't think we can possibly go to anything else for Cleveland here. Like LeVert, no.
I have no. I have 1 out of 150 LeVert. I have 4 out of 150 Strus.
Yeah. And when I say I mean like of substance. Great spot for Cleveland.
I'm kind of surprised I'm not getting more of Cleveland in general.
Well, I could lend you some Darius Garland and still be 2x the field.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the issue I'm running into is just when you can get to Kyle Lowry and Josh Green and Caleb Martin, like why would you play Darius Garland?
Jesus, I'm about to find out why in the world any of that's happening.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anything else here for Cleveland?
No.
We ran this time down. That helps. Milwaukee Bucks, 3-point favorites in Miami, 225 total. So for Milwaukee, Chris Middleton is questionable. Took one game of him getting more minutes, and all of a sudden it was just like, well, Chris Middleton exploded. Not the good way. So he's questionable with his same injury bullshit. Bam is probable. Duncan Robinson is probable. And just to make a note of this, right thumb sprain is why he was out. So not like a conditioning thing. I assume if he's playing, and since he's probable, I assume he's playing. I think he's going right back to that like 33 minutes a night type range.
And then good luck figuring out how to project Duncan Robinson's efficiency with a sprained thumb on his shooting hand.
Yeah. Haywood Highsmith questionable. Jimmy Butler questionable. We're starting on the Milwaukee side, however. 4% to Middleton is the high mark. It's 8 to Middleton on FanDuel. I have one share of Middleton at 6,100. These guys look downright awful today.
Yeah, they do. Middleton's, I'm getting to 9% Middleton, so I'm pretty much in line with our optimal percentage on him, a little bit over the field. Shooting guard, small forward, 6,100. If he's in, he looks okay, but the issue is like how many minutes does he even play if he's in?
Yeah.
So there obviously is risk there, but it's not like I'm going crazy on him, just a little bit more than the 3%. Other than that, like very, very small amounts of Beasley, Connaughton, Lillard. Don't have any Giannis right now, neither does the field.
Yeah, it's hard. To want to get to these guys, we're talking about a Miami team 5th in defense and 25th in pace. Like this is not the scenario where you go hunting for fantasy points. And then, because I don't think we have anything else to talk about for Milwaukee, but based on you having Martin, I guess we need to talk about Miami a little bit. Now this could get really crazy. Oh my God, I have it too. Not Martin, but still. This could get crazy if Butler ends up out. But Jimmy Butler is 8,300 small forward, power forward, 4% owned. Kyle Lowry is 22% owned at 5,100. I got to 16 of Lowry, so I'm matching that. I never saw that coming. That's a function of the slate. I've got 22% Jimmy Butler, which I love at 8,300 against the Bucks. If he's playing, he don't give a shit about what's going on in Milwaukee, and they are not nearly the defensive team that they have been over the past couple of years. Yeah. Similarly, I'm also getting to 29% of Jaime Jaquez at 5,400.
Yeah, okay, so I don't have that one, but I have 39% Kyle Lowry right now, 25% owned, 28% chance of being optimal, $5,100 point guard. Like you said, it's just a function of the slate. That price tag fits really, really nicely into a lot of different builds. I think it's probably the same reason I'm getting to Schroeder at 6,300 is just like that's a very reasonable price too, but Lowry obviously even less expensive. I'm getting to 29% Caleb Martin. I think that goes away. Right now we have him with an 11% chance of being optimal at 4% owned. So this is just, I think, one of those gaps where we see it a lot on early shows where either the optimal percentage is going to go down or the ownership is going to come up. It's just very, very unlikely that by lock, any player is 3x or 4x to be optimal compared to the field. The field's just too good for that. But like if that's how he were projected, then yeah, I would love to have a lot of Caleb Martin. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So I do think I lose that. But right now I have a lot of him. I have 15% Bam, which kind of the same thing. 4% owned, 9% chance of being optimal, $9,200 center. He's at least a real player. So like if I'm over the field on Bam, I feel certainly better about that than somebody like Caleb Martin. But I like the idea of it. He's a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy. Like you said, Milwaukee hasn't been as good defensively, but it's just so hard to actually pay that price tag when he's center only.
Yeah. I reran something. I realized that I gave my 31 minutes to Cam Johnson to Cam Thomas accidentally. So I wasn't getting Cam Johnson, who is obviously like a decent value. When I reran it, I now have 42% of the 14% owned Cam Johnson. So that made up for a little bit of where I was just like, I don't have that ownership at all. Typed it in the wrong Cam spot. Yeah, so like I have Jaquez, you have Martin. Like we're basically just talking about the same guy and trying to figure out who's going to get the minutes between him. Like I have no real feel for how many minutes Caleb Martin is going to be playing right now.
No, me neither. I mean, he played 30 last game, which was good to see.
It's a kind of unique game. I mean, he can
I
play
meant
30, I
physically.
think is what you're
Like,
trying to say. Yeah,
yeah,
I hear you. I was going to say, like,
like,
no Bam, no Butler, no Hero, no Robinson.
yeah, no, I meant they let him go run out on the floor for 30
Yeah.
minutes is good to see.
The thing about Caleb Martin is that, like, people are probably, any Miami fans, just plug your ears. Like, he's not good. He's not like any guy that you're worried about during the regular season. He's got a skill set that helps them in the playoffs because he can guard up and down positions, and it's not a problem if he's the fifth guy. He's meaningless in a regular season rotation. You can play Jaime Jaquez, you can play Haywood Highsmith. These guys are all going to be relatively interchangeable in a regular season game. And that's where it starts to get a little tricky. Like, I have 30 minutes to Jaquez and 24 to Martin. If I take 2 more minutes off of Haywood Highsmith and give it to Martin, I might just have Martin now.
Right. And like, you go back to the game on the 24th against the Knicks. Martin played 18 minutes. Jaquez played 35.
Yeah. Jaquez seems to be locked into 30 right now. Best I could tell. 2% owned. I'll take that.
Yeah, not bad.
He's, 0.87 over the past month.
What'd you say?
0.87 over the past month. Like, it's not like he's been dog shit either.
Yeah, we have Jaquez at 31 minutes. We have Martin at 24 and a half.
Okay. Yeah, oddly enough, I like Miami. I didn't expect to be getting 24 or like close to the field on Kyle Lowry today.
Yeah, I mean, that was one. I mentioned a couple of them a minute ago, including Lowry and Martin. There were a lot of guys like the top of my exposures where I'm just like, okay, I can tell that either there's a really wonky projection or this is a really weird slate, and I think it's the latter.
By the way, Kyle Lowry on the season. Do you know his usage?
Like 12, probably battling Mike Conley.
13.
Yeah.
13. Not
What's
good.
the point per minute? Like 0.8?
0.85 is what I have over the last 30 days. Yeah. By the way, I don't expect Jimmy Butler to actually be playing in this game. Brandon D just sort of said it. Bucks 3-point favorites in Miami. I don't think that's the talent gap here on a neutral floor. Like, I don't think it's 5 points between these guys right now. So something to keep your eye on, because if Jimmy Butler ends up out, we obviously like Bam Adebayo way more at 9,200 than we do right now. And I think he starts to pull away from. So Şengün is like very interesting for today, which we'll get to. But Bam will start to look better. I assume we're like aggressively jamming Josh Richardson at that point.
If Butler is out, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 37 minutes last game. So like, that's another one where obviously, Bam was out too and all of that, but just having Josh Richardson play 37 minutes is good to know.
You have to give Kyle Lowry some sort of usage bump if Butler is out. And then I think Caleb Martin actually does end up playing a lot. Like, I think you're getting that 30 minutes again from Martin. So that Jimmy Butler news
Bam
is
looks
massive.
better, obviously.
Yeah, that Jimmy Butler news is massive for Miami here. If he can go, though, he's going against Milwaukee. He just likes to beat those dudes. And just to double check it, Bucks are 3-0 in East Group B. Miami 2-1. They want the win. They can tie the Bucks in theory. If the Knicks lose to Charlotte today, Miami could win this group by picking up that dub and getting the right point differential. So, like, there are machinations of the in-season tournament here as well. Anything else for Miami?
No.
Is this a revenge narrative alert for Miami or Damian Lillard, by the way?
Yeah, the whole team just pissed off that he didn't find his way there.
I mean, obviously, everybody from Miami.
Jordan looks like somebody is like breaking into his house and exposing themselves to him or something.
You get robbed, Jordan? You can nod. Do we need to order a pizza? No? Okay. I don't know what he's doing, but something's happening off camera. I don't trust this man at all. Doesn't matter. We're talking underdog now. Adam, you have underdog best ball drafts, right?
I do.
How's that going?
Decent. Like, not as good as usual, but like, I could be fine. Kyron Williams is my highest owned guy. Hubbard's my second highest owned guy. So
might be good now.
Yeah. I think last I looked, I had 2 teams in the top 10,000 in regular season scoring, which you get paid for, but
nice. Well, you guys can sign up at Underdog if you click the link in the description. Get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. They've got pick'em contests. They've got daily fantasy contests. Best ball that's the place you go to play best ball. Everybody wants to be an underdog for it. They've got playoff drafts as well for NBA, hockey, for the PGA majors as well. It's a great spot to be if you want to try to do like a little bit of everything in the sports space, because they've got everything. They're hitting everything between pick'em and daily fantasy and best ball. Like, you're getting the whole Megillah of what you can do in sports. I think that's pretty good. And obviously, people love underdog. They've got some name value around these parts. Got to be 18 or over, 21 or over in Ma and Az, 19 plus in Al and Ni. I don't want to get any of these states wrong. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. But yeah, click that link in the description. Double up your money. This one sucks. We're so lucky that the Charlotte Hornets play the Knicks today. Hornets are 11.5-point underdogs in New York, 221 total. For Charlotte, LaMelo Ball is doubtful. James Bouknight is probably drunk. Cody Martin out. Frank Ntilikina out. Nick Richards out. The benefit here for us is that we don't have to try to figure out Charlotte aggressively. Knicks 8th in defense, 30th in pace. This is a terrible spot for the Hornets. But with no LaMelo Ball, everything changes. 18% ownership coming into a $7,400 Terry Rozier. I think that looks great for Rozier. 10 coming into Brandon Miller, who I'm guessing steps into the starting lineup in place of LaMelo. Guess it could be PJ Washington if you want it. But for the most part, these guys don't look that great because of the matchup.
No, the matchup does really suck. I am getting to Rozier. Like you said, he's just going to look good here. 19% ownership, 17% chance of being optimal. I have 14%, so slightly behind the field, but he's the only guy on this team I'm getting double-digit exposure to, which is not surprising because the Knicks play so slow and they're good defensively. But like, if you just didn't say they're playing the Knicks and you say Charlotte's playing today on a slate where we have like no good plays and LaMelo Ball's out, you would assume that you're just like jamming Charlotte aggressively, but really, really tough to get there. The field is not getting double-digit ownership to anybody other than Rozier. Neither am I. I have 7% Hayward, 6% Miller, 4% Bridges. I have a PJ Washington lineup. The second half starting lineup last game was Brandon Miller moving back into the starting lineup. I assume it's going to be the same thing here. So you still had PJ Washington off the bench. Now, he did play the final 19 and a half minutes of the game, but not expecting 38 minutes from PJ Washington off the bench.
No. And that, by the way, 47% ownership coming to $5,700 Gordon Hayward, shooting guard, small forward on FanDuel. Very different play.
Yeah. Very, very good play there. Yeah.
But yeah, like, Rozier is unequivocally good. He stepped right back into 36 minutes, and now he gets to do it without LaMelo. Like, he's $7,400 Rozier. That's not the right price tag for him to not have LaMelo. The only thing that's stopping him from not being like 40% owned is facing the Knicks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you put this game, like, make this the Atlanta game, and this whole team is like 30+% owned.
Terry Rozier is like a 6x play today if they're playing Atlanta or the Pacers or something like that. But the Knicks are dead last in pace. They're slow as shit, and they play well defensively. Hope we don't have to have that discussion. Where are you hiding, Josh Gillum?
Definitely can't play Mark Williams here.
No. A 6,900 for Mark Williams. I don't have a single share. I love that dude, but it ain't happening today.
I just meant because Mitchell Robinson locking down centers. But
yeah, even if it was Kelly Olynyk.
Right.
Now, on the Knicks side, they get the benefit of facing Charlotte. And Charlotte is the 27th ranked defense and 6th in pace. 29% ownership coming into RJ Barrett, 24 to Mitchell Robinson, 24 to Emmanuel Quickley, 10 to Julius Randle, 10 to Jalen Brunson. I have so much of this stupid Knicks team. 67% RJ Barrett, 60% Mitchell Robinson. I've got 20 of Jalen Brunson at 10% ownership. I'm matching the field on Quickley. I don't have much Julius Randle, but that's okay. These guys look great against Charlotte.
I cannot figure out where the hell my exposures are because I'm not getting to this team either. I mean, I am compared to some of the other ones we've talked about, but I'm not at the same level as the field. Quickley's my highest owned guy here at 16%. Fields at 24, 5,300 point guard, shooting guard, projects well. We have him at 26.7 DraftKings points, 17% chance of being optimal. So I'm pretty much in line with the optimal percentage, just not as much ownership as the field. Barrett's getting 30% ownership. I have 9. Robinson's getting 22% ownership. I have 15. Randall's getting 10%. I have 3.
That I can match you with.
2% Brunson at 10% owned. I have 3% Hart at 5%. So this is another, it's kind of like Cleveland for me, where they're clearly one of the best teams, but like they're also just getting a ton of ownership. So I think this kind of just comes down to, for me, the way I'm approaching large field tournaments, like, yes, these guys are obviously good plays and I am playing them, but the path, like an easier path to getting first place in a tournament is somehow the Knicks suck and somehow the Cavs suck.
S&P, I don't have 70% RJ Barrett. Calm down. I have 67. Let's not overrate how much I have here. It's hard enough at 67. But yeah, 60% of Mitchell Robinson right now is not. I'm having trouble stomaching that one.
Yeah, like I like that I'm even with the optimal percentage on Robinson and quickly. I'm not remotely close to it on Barrett. Well, I'm like half of it on Barrett, but yeah, I mean, I think this team is going over-owned, but they're also just one of the most likely teams to succeed.
Yeah, they look just like Cleveland, as you mentioned. Like, it's a great situation to face a shitty defense that plays fast.
I wouldn't be surprised, and like, not that I'm setting a rule, not like it's every lineup, but just based on my exposures here, I have a feeling that I just have like a Nick in a lot of lineups, and it's just like, okay, well, hopefully I grab the one that goes nuts, and hopefully they don't just score 140 points.
Yeah, I think mine's going to be slightly different.
Yeah,
I like having 2x the field on Brunson. Like, that's the kind of play that I want. I don't need 2x on Robinson and Barrett, but I'm not surprised that it's happening either.
Yeah, I mean, like
Barrett,
we talk about it a lot. Like, I don't think there's a right answer here. It's just the heavier you're going on these Knicks guys, the more you need to be aware of what you're doing in the rest of your lineup. If
they're obviously good plays,
they're
obviously good plays,
right? So I want to see like guys that I'm heavy on. If I just have any like clearly comparable guys, so like I'm getting a ton of Rudy Gobert at center. I don't know what his ownership is off the top of my head, but it looks like he's pretty popular too. But okay, so like I have a lot of Dylan Brooks at 4,900. That's somebody that is kind of just a pivot to like everything here.
We're going to talk about Houston. We got to dig into them in an important way for today.
Yeah, but like, so like I'm getting the not like super low owned guys, but I was getting a good amount of Jared Allen. That's a viable pivot to Robinson, even though he's a little bit more expensive. So I don't see any like direct, like, oh, this is the guy I'm playing instead of Robinson or instead of Barrett. But I think that I do have just, like some lower owned guys in a similar price range.
The Oklahoma City Thunder, 3.5-point dogs in Minnesota, 227 total. Nobody on the injury report for OKC. For Minnesota, it's just Jaden McDaniels. The highest owned guy on the Thunder is 4% owned Shea. Welcome back to Jalen Williams without the Y. No real ownership coming in on FanDuel either. The most I have of Giddey is 7, which is, I don't know, like 7 less than he would like. But Oklahoma City looks bad. Minnesota's defense is good. They don't play fast. These guys are all priced appropriately-ish. Give me any Shea I can get, but like, I'm not getting to this team.
I have 8 guys from OKC in at least one lineup. My highest exposure to any of them is Giddey at 5%. So it's sort of just these guys are randomly landing in some lineups. Like you said, if I were to somehow just be getting a bunch of 3% owned Shea, then great. But that's not really happening for me right now. Tough matchup. Same goes for Chet at 7,800. 2% owned. I have 2%. It's just a very, very difficult team to get to.
And nobody likes exposure more than Giddey.
I didn't hear the beginning.
It doesn't matter.
Jalen Williams coming back does matter too. Not only he is taking up minutes, but we talked before about the massive change in production for Gilgeous-Alexander when he's playing without Jalen Williams.
Yeah, it's not a good spot. There's no other way to really describe it. Like, OKC's good, but these guys are all basically priced where they should be. On the Minnesota side, I guess running back the Wolves again.
Minor.
Yeah, that's good. 15% ownership to Edwards, Towns, Slow-Mo, and Naz Reid. 25 to Rudy Gobert. I have 75. I also have 46% of Naz Reid, 28 of Anderson, 27 of Towns, and 7 of Anthony Edwards. So sign me up for the Minnesota Timberwolves, evidently.
Yeah, this is one I'm getting to. 45% Gobert. So I'm like, almost 2x the field. He's getting 27% ownership, but 6,600 is just a very, very favorable price tag for him. I'm getting a lot of that. I'm at 20% on Cat, Fields at 13. Anthony Edwards is pulling 16% ownership. I have about 13. I have 15% on Naz Reid, who's 15% owned, getting to 8% Kyle Anderson, and then 5% apiece Mike Conley, Shake Milton, Troy Brown, 4% Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I have 9 different Wolves in at least a lineup. 45% Gobert, 20% Towns, 15% Reed, 13% Edwards being the highest. Edwards losing small forward eligibility does suck.
It does. 75% Gobert right now, but I don't hate it at all. I think this is a nice spot for him just from like a size perspective.
Yeah, only 1.03 DraftKings points per minute this year.
Yeah, I think he could have a monster day on the boards here. Like, obviously, Chet is a fantastic defender, but Rudy Gobert is like real size.
Yeah, and one of the best rebounders in the league.
Yeah. He could just clean this class up. But yeah, I'm getting to all of these guys. I think they look pretty good. 8,600 for Towns with having that power forward eligibility. I think that really helps.
Yep.
So I am loading up on Minnesota as of right now. We'll see where that ends up being. Another testament to like where value is and stuff. I'm jamming Naz Reid at 4,300, but they're just like, as far as point per dollar plays go, or point per minute plays go, at least, like he's the kind of guy that you got to get to at that range. I just don't want that much. Didn't work out last time. Houston Rockets, 4.5 point dogs in Dallas, 231 total. 27% ownership to Şengün, 17 to Brooks, 16 to Van Vliet, 13 to Smith, 24 to Jalen Green, because if the Houston Rockets win today, they will win their group in the in-season tournament. So win and they're in. And they did play a ton of minutes in their most recent game. S&P believes they're going to run that back again today. And I don't think that that is a crazy stance. Obviously, Fred VanVleet is playing 38 to 40 minutes, just no matter who they're playing and when. How do we want to handle Houston? Because they have a very clear incentive to go hard in this game.
Yeah, and it's a good matchup too. I mentioned it the other day, but Dallas is low-key one of those fast teams that doesn't defend also, which is different than previous years. So good matchup. And it's not a lock that Houston runs that same rotation, but if they run anything even close to it, they're going to look really, really good. And like you said, Van Vliet's playing big minutes. Şengün played 43 minutes last game, but that is obviously not the norm, but he's been playing big minutes when he's not in foul trouble. It's not like he went from, the 27, 28 minute guy that we were getting at points last year. Like he's been a 33, 34 minute guy in competitive games where he's not fouling. So it's not crazy to think he's playing big minutes again. We got huge minutes from Jalen Green and Jabari Smith. Brooks played 30, which is kind of surprising. Like you would expect him to play more. Did have some foul trouble in the first half, cost him a couple minutes, but he certainly could go north of 30. He does it frequently. So that combined with pretty favorable pricing, they just look like a pretty good team to get to.
The things that I said on the process show earlier, like obviously Van Vliet's minutes or whatever, Şengün's going to play as many as he can. It's just hard to project centers for like crazy minutes. I went 34, but I can see the path to 36 plus. Jalen Green is the guy that I think you could realistically like significantly increase the projection because they don't have more Jalen Greens. You can swap out Dillon Brooks and Jabari Smith for Jayshawn Tate and Tari Eason and Jeff Green to an extent, if you want to like add that type of guy. They have interchangeable wing pieces. So you don't have to jam one of those guys when like Tari Eason can get 4 more minutes instead of just playing Dillon Brooks 38. Whereas like Jalen Green is the guy that I look at like, okay, if anybody's going to get that jump, he's the guy that I think sneaks up the most. I'm not getting these guys at all. 1% Şengün, no Brooks, 1% Van Vliet, 2% Jabari Smith, 10 of Tate, and 5 of Jalen Green. I basically don't have them.
Yeah, I'm getting them. Still not necessarily like a lot more than the field. Dillon Brooks is the guy that I'm getting a ton of. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but he's getting 16% ownership. We have him with a 21% chance of being optimal. We have him projected for 31 to 32 minutes. 4,900 small forward. I'm getting the 42% right now. It's Dillon Brooks. I'm not going to like love that that's happening, but I don't mind it at 4,900. I'm getting
No.
27% Şengün, which is even with the field. I like that. 8,500 is a very fair price tag. He's a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy. He produces at the same rate as Bam. He's $700 less expensive, and he's facing Dallas. So really like getting there. I'm getting the 13% Van Vliet, which is not too far behind the field, which is at 16%. Jalen Green is the interesting one. So like right now, I'm only getting to 11% Green. We have him projected for 23% ownership. We only have him with an 11% chance of being optimal, but we only have him projected for 31 minutes. And so I think there's a decent chance that comes up. This is kind of the inverse of the Caleb Martin spot, where either Jalen Green's optimal percentage is coming up from 11%, or his ownership is coming down from 23%, most likely. So right now he's kind of getting penalized because the ownership's not in line with like the projection, but I think that changes one way or the other. I like the idea of getting to him at 6,400 quite a bit. Right now I'm not getting too much, but also getting 8% Jabari Smith, 8% Tate, and then very small amounts of Eason and Holiday. So I'm getting to the team as a whole a lot. Dylan Brooks is the only like aggressive stand I have over the field though.
Anything else for Houston? We got to pick up the pace. Doesn't matter if you have anything else. 22% ownership coming into Grant Williams on the Dallas side. Everybody else is single digits. Williams is a 4K power forward, playing about 30 minutes a night. I have 44%. This is a value spot that I'm going to. I am not getting anything else here from Dallas. However, Houston, quite the slow team this season, and 7th in defense.
Yeah, very, very different than what we've seen in previous years from them. I am getting to Dallas a bit, which I don't love. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I'm getting a lot of Josh Green. He's 3,600. He played 9 minutes last game. Like, I think this goes away, but we have him with a 16% chance of being optimal at 6% owned. So he's going to show up right now, but I don't think that's going to hold. I'm getting to 19% Luka at 3% owned, which obviously I really like, but given the lack of value on this slate, I think I probably lose that when guys like Caleb Martin and Josh Green stop looking amazing in projections. So that all kind of goes hand in hand. Outside of that, not getting much. Like I have 12% Grant Williams, and other than that, it all just falls off a cliff.
Yeah. Give me any Luka I could ever get. Kyrie up to 9,600 now is just going to be too tough.
Yeah.
By the way, in case I didn't mention it, Derek Lively is questionable. That could free things up and will certainly make you feel a little bit better about some options.
Yeah, we got Holmes starting last game. He played 21 minutes, including garbage time. Dwight Powell played 15 minutes off the bench. If Holmes starts again, it's likely that you're getting some sort of 22 for Holmes, 14 to 16 for Powell, and then the rest going to like Grant Williams.
Golden State's 3-point dogs in Sacramento. Hit that like button, by the way. Draymond is back. Everybody that's normally in for the Warriors is. Keon Ellis questionable. Alex Len out. Keegan Murray doubtful. 19% ownership coming into a $6,200 Draymond. 13% coming into Clay. Basically single digits to everybody else. I don't have any Draymond. I have a little bit of Clay. I don't mind Draymond at 6,200, but I don't love it either.
Draymond's my highest owned player on the slate right now. I have 53%. We have him with a 25% chance of being optimal at 19% owned. Just good position, good salary. I assume he's not going to be limited. 1.16 DraftKings points per minute this year. Solid matchup against the Kings. So I don't love it, but at the same time, I haven't loved a single play on this slate, I don't think. So I don't mind it. I'm getting 14% Clay. Other than that, I'm not really getting much of anything.
We've got Draymond projected for 30 and a half minutes. He doesn't do that this year. He hasn't played more than 30. He hasn't played more than 29 and a half minutes since October 29th. I don't know what else goes before that. I don't think you can project him for those kinds of minutes. He hasn't played it. 21, 22, 27, 29, 29, 28, 18, 24, missed 5 games being out. I don't think you can project him for more. 28 to me is the ceiling of minutes for Draymond Green today.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
That
9 games this year, he's averaging 22.2 minutes per game.
There you go. There's no chance he's playing 30 minutes today with a projection. You cannot do that. So I think your Draymond will come down.
Keep in mind that average is down because of the Minnesota game.
Sure, but it's not 7 minutes down.
No. The last actual game Draymond played, he played 24.4 minutes in a competitive game.
Yeah, he just has not been playing those kind of minutes. And he's not playing those kind of minutes coming back after missing 5 games.
He did have some foul trouble in that game, but I don't think it made a huge difference.
Yeah, like if he doesn't get suspended, do I think that it'd be wild for him to play 30? No, I just don't think it's happening. Sacramento side, 14% ownership to Monk, single digits across the board everywhere else. He's 5,600. I have 45%. I also have 11% of De'Aaron Fox. But in a matchup here against Golden State with Draymond back, I don't see a lot for Sacramento that stands out. They've already sort of stabilized these salaries with Murray out.
Yeah, the minutes have the prices rather have already adjusted. Like Monk at 5,600 getting 14% owned they're getting 14% ownership is mostly to do with the slate. He's the guy I'm getting the most of, but that's only 11%. I have 5% or less of Lyles, Barnes, Fox, Duarte, Herter. It's just not a team I'm getting to very much.
Yeah. I don't know why I have 45% Monk. I definitely don't want that to continue. Not that like he's a problem or anything, but like he's not the kind of guy that I just want to take a stand on. Well, I guess he is the kind of guy I want to take a stand on. Just doesn't feel like this is the slate I need to do that. Well, we made it to the end. We will be back for the deeper dive in a bit. You've got a video and an article coming out?
Yep.
There it is. Shout out to Underdog for being the sponsor. Shout out to Jordan Klein for being held hostage during the middle of this show. Good luck to everybody. Watch the NFL strategy show coming up next. Peace.